Hello everyone, how are we doing?
Good.
Great, good to see you all here. I'm very excited. This is our event on the blockchain and energy blockchain, so I'm very happy to have you here. So let me first invite the panel. So I'm Nish Sonwalkar. Let's have Alistair Pim. Big hand to Alistair. Then we have Amitesh. Thank you. And we also have this Snyder. Come on over. So we know that a lot of action happens because of the upsurge in the Bitcoin. And so everyone started talking about blockchain primarily because the Bitcoin was structured around the blockchain. And I hear that Satoshi Nakamoto is somewhere here. So if you see him, please say hello to him. Because we do not know who he is. So as you know, this whole revolution started many years back now, but it has really taken or captured the imagination of the nation primarily because the cryptocurrency and also the blockchain framework. So if you look at fintech, all of these new industries are now using blockchain framework. So let me ask you, how many of you are familiar with blockchain? Okay, so I do not have to go into details of blockchain, that's good. But we are focusing today on, not on cryptocurrency to say, and the tokens and the coins, but we are focusing on the technology of blockchain. And we have great panelists here who come from 3 different areas, and I'm going to introduce them a little bit later. But let me first show you a few slides so we are all on the same page. So we are going to first look at what is the energy blockchain and why blockchain itself. So we are looking at the overview where we are looking at the blockchain and the technology framework, and then we are looking at why energy industry would be very interested in it, primarily for doing what we call as peer-to-peer transaction, almost changing it from the traditional model of the big grids to decentralized grids. So that's the main idea there. Then we are also looking at the new frontier in solar, because solar is enabling now to create microgrids, solar microgrids. Also there are wind microgrids and there are other microgrids as well, alternative energy sources. But we are focusing also some of the new inventions, and that's why we call the new frontiers, because we are now looking at the efficiency of solar panels going almost 22 to 25%, which used to be 12%. So there is a significant gain using the quantum dot kind of thinking, and also what we call as photonic solar conversion, which we are also working on. And then we are looking at the resiliency as well as the security. And we have Amitesh from Snyder, who really worries about the security of all the power systems every day. So we do have a very good initiative from the blockchain securitizing or securing the entire system. So that's one of the angles. We are also looking at the quest for decentralization of the energy and creating an independence. Energy independence. As you know, if you look at the United States, there are only a few great people like national grids and Eversource, and we are very much dependent on that. And we know that when there are typhoons and the big events happen, the entire city can be in the dark, like Texas was, for many days, and Puerto Rico is still suffering from not getting 100%. So we are looking into decentralization from that perspective, and we are also looking at reduction in the carbon emission, primarily to save our planet. How many of us want to save our planet? Please raise your hand. Of course, we all want to live in one, because we only have one. If we find another one, maybe we can settle there. But so far as we know, we have only one planet to live on. So we are going to look at that and how we can save our planet using some of the decentralization. So I'm going to skip through blockchain because it's just a very quick introduction for those who do not understand. Blockchain is essentially a way to create a distributed consensus. So the way it is done is that transactions are all recorded in a block which is connected with the other blocks using hash, and those hashes are using a nonce, which is a very large prime number, so it's very hard to break through. But because they're all connected, all of them have to say that a particular transaction happened. So if there is any tampering in one of the blocks, everyone says no, that's not the right one. So that distribution consensus becomes very, very important for the security of the system. And the blockchain, because inherently it requires many big prime numbers, I think is highly unhackable, immutable, and also it is a public ledger, so anyone can go and look at the transaction and confirm that. So there are these inherent advantages in the blockchain framework, which goes right into the utility, and where we are looking at energy and how we are transacting between every home. So if we look at with this blockchain framework, now we look at there are multiple different ways it helps us. So if you look at for consumers, it's a great tool because you do not have to deal with the bank system. You are now one-on-one from the neighbor who may be generating solar power, and you can share that economy. So that's one. And then of course for the community, it's a great way to generate businesses and help the local businesses. If you go into the grid, now grid is failing primarily because there are only few points of failure. So the blockchain-based micro grids serve almost as a backup system. If the grid is down, the backup is still up, and it can also provide storage. So now, at least for a few days, you can run your internet and you can have the basic lights in your home. You may not be able to run your washers and dryers, but that's the way we are able to do it. Of course, for society, it's a great change because we are getting away with the monopoly of the big grids, and we are distributing the wealth all across the nation. So with that kind of overall ecosystem, we talk about the old grid system, as you can see here. Either they are atomic power plants which are fading away because of the atomic waste. Then of course it goes to gas power plant, and of course coal fired plant. So all of that has number one, the pollution aspect. So we are trying to go into alternative sources, which includes the fuel cell, it includes the solar, it includes the wind power and all of that good stuff. So we now create using the blockchain framework an economy which helps all the alternative energy sources. With that we go into, of course, the idea that when the main grids are down, we have something to hang on to, especially places like Puerto Rico are now building the microgrid. So if you look at these microgrids, now are helping us out, but bigger problem with the microgrids is that how do you do transactions? And I think that transacting using the blockchain with smart contracts, where between people there is a smart contract without a third party, which you require in order to authenticate those transactions. So now we have a way to do that transaction, and I think that's a great change, especially for the big grids where they are used to sending you the monthly bill. And if you look at your monthly bill of electricity, then 9 cents is the production cost, but another 9 cents is the transmission cost. So I think we can get rid of that 9% because of the local decentralization. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But you do need a framework to know that the transaction that happened, and that's where the blockchain framework helps us a lot. So now if you look at between different households, you can do peer-to-peer transaction, and I think that's where we are focusing on peer-to-peer transaction. So blockchain is an enabler technology. The solar, wind, and other alternative sources are providing additional backup source, and of course we work in tandem with the main grid. So we are not getting rid of the main grid, but we are helping the economy and everyone else to be coming to take place. In terms of the statistics, you can see that 40% of the blockchain is going into decentralized applications, metering, grid management, electric vehicles. Many of you now own electric vehicle. Soon we will all be having the low end of the electrical vehicle because we do not have to only go to Tesla. I see that every car manufacturer is now coming to electrical vehicle. So you do have to charge, right? So you do need electricity. And then of course we are looking at IoT, and I know that we have IoT all over the world. Now it's helping every part of it, so the blockchain is also being used in IoT. So let me also again say that the sector of, especially the market growth of the solar industry is growing quite a bit, and we are in the United States, we are now becoming first time triple digit. So we will do almost 108 kilowatts. Megawatts, in fact, will cost that. And so I think we are getting into gigawatts and gigawatts. So in the next 5 years, there will be about 500 gigawatts produced. And I think the economy is now shifting towards that. So the goal for what we call the challenge of DOE is by 2030, they want to get 30% of all electricity in the United States by the solar and other alternatives. So we are going into the right direction. If you look at the microgrid market, it's going to be one of the biggest. You can see the biggest balloon here, which is America, then APEC countries, Europe, and other countries as well. So microgrids, you can see all the rooftops having some of these solar panels. They can all connect from these blockchain framework, and we can create a transacting marketing place. So I think it's a new market for the energy buying and selling. So I'm going to ask my panelists some of these questions. So this is a typical microgrid or nanogrid. So nanogrids are normally, if you look at around 50 kilowatt and less. If you look at microgrids are about 1 megawatt and less. And then we get into the big grids. Again, these numbers vary a little bit based on who you talk to, but we do have nanogrids, which you may be having solar panels on your rooftop, that's your nanogrid, but that can now connect to a marketing model. So if you are not at home, then you can sell your power. So I think this is the new economy that we're talking about. And again, we are also focusing on resilience. So when one microgrid goes down, another one can supply to you. So think about 4 different microgrids. One goes down, now you have resilient system. Resilience in electrical system has been a big problem, and DOE and a lot of other organizations are spending a lot of money, and there's a control system play a very big idea here, that how we control as well as secure, as well as security and control system to switch electricity from one part of the city to another, because one part is gone, so other part is supplied. So those are the resilient systems. So enough said, I know in this crowd there are people who have come as far as from Pennsylvania and of course from other parts. So I welcome you all. Thank you for coming in, and we'll now begin with the panel discussion. So first let me ask panelists to give their own view in terms of what they think about energy, blockchain, and then I'll ask a few questions first and then we open it for all of you to ask your questions. So let's start with Alistair. Alistair. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Alistair Pim. I work for the Northeast Clean Energy Council, NECEC. It's a non-profit that's helping to grow the clean energy economy in the Northeast, so all of New England and New York. We're kind of a business association. We have members starting out as startups, including Nish's company and one or two others here, all the way up to GE, Shell, and the utilities that Nish mentioned, National Grid and Source, and the ones in New York, Con Ed, Maplewood, etc. So what I see is the energy sector in transition. So Nish referred to a lot of that. It's decentralizing, it's decarbonizing, and it's getting digitized all at the same time. So a lot is going on. The guys running the system have been confronted with new opportunities, new technologies all the time. Blockchain is just another one of those things that could help them, or it could threaten to disrupt them. So what I see happening is a lot of evaluation going on. At first there was like, what's this? Is this just for finance, or could this really help us? So what we see in our members is moving through that phase of evaluation and then talk of pilots. In the Northeast, we've seen some moves of the big companies partnering up or investing in some of these companies. LO3 is another famous company in Brooklyn. Siemens partnered with them. They got some investment from a VC. So we're seeing moves by players, which means to me that they're interested, they see value there. And the next phase is proving that. So I think it's an interesting time, but you've just got to put it in the context of everything else that the utilities are trying to look at.
My name is Amitesh. Usually my voice is loud enough that I don't need mic, but I see a few people sitting there, so maybe I can use mic, but if I get too loud, let me know. Yeah. So I work for Snyder Electric. I head the development organization in that R&D. And where my interest lies is automation and control, IoT, and being part of Snyder Energy is my general area of interest. Where I see the movement happening is energy has always been something which is key to communities and in general the businesses. But security has started becoming an important component of the energy sector because one of the soft targets for either intergovernmental wars or even within a hacker just sitting somewhere and thinking of ways to hack, one of the soft target can be the energy sector. So how do we, and with the world moving, something dramatic has happened in the last 10-15 years where IoT has started picking up and there is a lot of push and there will be a lot of push with what I'm seeing is in the area of IoT. General Electric is moving in that direction, Siemens is moving in that direction, and Snyder Electric for sure is moving in that direction. Many other companies are moving in that direction. So the key with millions and billions probably, some people tell there could be 8 billion devices sold every year, IoT devices. How are we going to secure all of these devices? How are they going to communicate with each other? And I was just talking to Paula, with everything that is happening with Alexa. Alexa knows it all. Alexa knows everything you do. And Paula was just telling, it knows even her voice, right? And that is just a very small piece of what's going to happen. And how does that all play into microgrid? Because once microgrid gets connected, and the communities get connected with one another, and it gets connected, with the national grid and all that, how are we going to secure all this? And all these little micro devices interplaying, what are we going to do then? Right? And that's where my interest is, and I see that's where the world is going. It's going to be very exciting what's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
I agree. My name is Chris Taylor. I started a company called Consilience Systems. Due to the nature of blockchain, we had to figure out what to do with the equity of this company. We have to rethink things from the ground floor up. So our first product that we're putting out is called Society of Explorers. It's a membership-based community, and we're focused on using these tools to integrate into practical solutions. So that we can start playing with these Lego pieces, seeing what's secure, seeing how people like to use the tools. Because the nature of this technology is so fundamental and it touches so many things, we get to think about a lot of things. So I do agree this is people are evaluating on all fronts, and at the ground floor of institutions on the technology side, people are realizing that there's real substance here in these tool sets. Where that lies, whether it be architecture, how we trust one another, how we trust our machines, and beyond, is now being figured out. So it's very exciting as in the past year that so many people are interested in this space. There is money here, but the interest in those who have had the strongest convictions are probably the wealthiest in this space are interested in what moves things forward beyond money and how we operate and interoperate as humans together to do sort of political, ecological infrastructure system. Nature inspires consilience and how we think in this culture. To your point here, security is a very big issue that we haven't yet seen as a public how big of an issue this is within the energy sector. Spent about 7.5 years managing energy assets and trading across markets in the US, and this is a very big issue. The fact that I can talk to Ukrainian developers right now and they can know certain things about how to take down certain parts of our grid is a very serious issue. So we do have something very in common that the whole world needs to figure out here. The kinds of keys we're unlocking are significant, and it's fun to think about, but it is also true, evolutionary in nature. So we're seeing these things play out very quickly. So it is very exciting. People are right to be excited about these things, but we have to keep our heads clear to be honest about what tools can do, what they cannot do. Please keep your minds separate from the money. The functionality is moving forward this conversation, I believe.
Can you all hear me? Okay, so I will not use the mic because we have one mic, one mic system. So my question first to Alistair Pim is that you are sitting at NECEC, which is an organization looking at New England Council of Clean Energy. So when you talk to your colleagues and those who are in the traditional industry in terms of the great people, what do you think is their reaction now to this wave of two things? One is the blockchain as a mechanism or a new technology framework, and the second thing, microgrids. So if you can elaborate.
So I think I started going into that bit, right? I mean, the whole energy system is going through a massive change, and that's being driven by, first of all, climate change. So they know they need to decarbonize, and they're being forced to do that by regulations at state level, country level in some places, less in others, and some places in cities as well. City government putting in permitting rules for water power in the future. So your utility, that's one of the things you're looking at. Secondly, with all this new technology around, customers are starting to realize that they have new solutions at their disposal, which, like the Snyder, are coming up, right? So they're using IoT, they're using big data, they're using AI, machine learning to figure out how they can use the data that's thrown out by all the sensors to enable them to control their energy in a much more granular fashion. And I think the customers are moving quicker than the utilities because they can. Utilities in this country are regulated, so whatever they do, they want to make an investment in digitizing their assets, making them more intelligent. They have to go and make a plan to the regulator that has to get approved, and then it takes time for that to roll out. So they're just getting around to doing smart meters in New York. It's going to take 5 years, and then we've started figuring out when they're going to do that in Massachusetts. They're looking at it, and they haven't made a decision yet. So when you think of how a utility looks at some opportunity like blockchain, they have to think of it in terms of, they really have to evaluate it, build a strong case to be able to go to the regulator and say, this is going to do something, not just for me and the shareholders of the utility, but also for the consumers. And they have to make sure that it is affordable for the consumers, that it continues to provide reliable power for the consumers, and that it's going to be fair to all the customers as well. So a lot of considerations. That's why things don't move fast in the utility industry. Now, if you're a customer, on the other hand, you see blockchain coming around, and you think, okay, I'm here, I have certain power that I need in my building, and I know my neighbors do too. Perhaps I could build my own power plant, microgrid, and then I could start selling what I don't need to my neighbors. Sounds like a good idea, but actually regulations prevent that at the moment. So one thing that's going to need to change for these transactions for local generation is regulations are going to need to change. Secondly, if you can figure that out, I think customers are going to move fast, and they're going to start what's called defecting from the grid. If they can figure out how to generate their own power and be able to make it cheaper than they're paying already, they're going to do it. We're seeing examples of that already, right? So we have actually in the Boston area many microgrids. There's a big one along the Boston in Boston. There's one in Biogen here, MIT has one, and there's a couple of others I forget their names. But microgrids exist. At the moment, they're mostly CHP, combined heat and power, running mostly off natural gas. So not a lot of solar and renewables being put into them yet. People are looking at that, they're evaluating. But I think we'll see people defecting from the grid, which is going to make the utilities want to move faster. Classic example of that is MGM Studios, or the casino group in Las Vegas. They use about 5% of, I think it's Nevada power. And they decided they could make their own power there with modern microgrids. And they said, okay, we want to pull out of the grid, which means the revenues of that utility go down 5%. They even paid a $70 million penalty for doing so, but still thought it was worth it. So it gives you an idea of the possibilities of new technology that's coming down the pipe. People will be perfect. So utilities are going to move slow until they're woken up, and the big companies and people who see the value are going to be really
Great. So, we are talking about utility and the big grids and, of course, how they distribute their power. So, I know, Amitesh, you are the lead architect of some of these enabling technologies of control system. So, what is that keeps you awake in the night?
So, a lot of things. But clearly, one of the important things that keeps me awake is security. Because I don't know how much you all are aware, there is a very active malicious program, intergovernmental programs going on, where they are trying to hack into each other's system. Because if you want to attack a country and create the biggest damage, it's not to throw a missile. The easiest way is to put a bug into the system of the country you want to attack and get hold of the power grids, get hold of the power systems, get hold of the control systems. And I don't know how many of you are aware of Stuxnet. There you go. And you know what kind of damage it came very close to do it. We all have heard of WannaCry, which got, it was just a few months back. It infected all your laptops, all your computers. And guess what? All these systems work on laptops, work on, devices. And Stuxnet was a good, Stuxnet and WannaCry was a good example that it just got into your system, and from your system, it was able to replicate all the other systems. Think if this same thing happened with malicious intentions with microgrids and with controllers and microcontrollers and IoT devices. What it could do not just in to your individual computers and laptops, but to the whole nation. So what had happened is currently there is active war going on in Middle East between countries. And like you were mentioning, what if someone, a hacker sitting in Ukraine, is thinking of how to attack United States and bring down its national grid or create massive damages to the country here. It's not rocket science. It's WannaCry and Stuxnet has shown you can get into the systems and you can start replicating and you can bring down big portions of active systems out there controlling all these different plants. So clearly this is a big area of concern and with IoT and others, like I said, getting in, this is going to become a bigger concern with so many devices and so many things out there.
All right. So we heard about the big grids and the microgrids coexisting, although it's a slow inception right now, as Alistair pointed out. And also you heard from Amitesh that there's a big concern, especially if you have microgrids, which may be more vulnerable in terms of getting through the microgrid into the major grid and then demolishing some of the energy system. So blockchain definitely becomes one contender, one technology enabler that can potentially secure some of these transactions behind the blockchain. So I will go to Chris Tyler, who has been old-timer in blockchain, to explain us a little bit about the blockchain evolution and where we are today in terms of starting with the Satoshi Nakamura, who is somewhere in this crowd. We still want to know who he is, but then getting into Vitalik and all of the others that you may have interacted at some point. Where are we today with the blockchain? Good.
Yeah, this is interesting. The conversations are interesting now that regulators collectively are agreeing upon rational ways of thinking about what this technology is and what it can do. The initial creators of this technology were technologists, they were engineers. When you have your head so deeply in something that is such a radical, I would say, sometimes you forget some practical matters about what you're doing. The creation of money is a very serious thing, and many nations besides the U.S. have to restart their currency pretty often. It's quite clear that Bitcoin arrived through the United States somewhere, in ecosystems of people who were somewhat fed up with what was happening in the government. If you read the Bitcoin blockchain, it looks a lot like the Declaration of Independence, except of the modern era, and that's what's happened. It's actually worked. You say, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? People know Satoshi Nakamoto, but people are actually just secure enough in holding the keys that they hold to recognize the weight of what we're dealing with here. So Bitcoin has emerged very naturally and very organically. Some people in computation call it the first form of artificial life. It has incentivized humans to participate with it, and it has grown and it has spread and it has replicated in different forms. Ethereum was a proposal that eventually emerged just like Bitcoin because the current system couldn't figure it out, and the community of Bitcoin was quite limited in a lot of ways in their thinking, but they were very focused on security. And a lot of these people in this ecosystem held their grounds, rightly so, through I would call it the Ethereum debacle, which was a group of people coming together after the fact of Bitcoin and putting together a system that works functionally, knowingly, including identifiable people, released this protocol onto the world, and it's created quite a lot of confusion. But it's also demonstrated almost artistically the possibilities of these technologies, these tools, and these kinds of architectures. It enabled the smart contract to emerge, which was prophesized or written about in the late 90s by someone named Nish Sonwalkar. And so, these people have learned a lot over the past few years. I think, I can say for myself, I've learned a lot about my relationship to money, what that means. And so I think it's a very unique group of people. It's a very small group of people. Now that we're dealing with different industries, this basic, nascent, very fundamental breakthrough has created what people call an industry. Those other industries who are touching those things they're subject matter experts. But blockchain expertise and those who've been dealing with it for a while are few and far between. Before money became such a big part of this, there are a lot of people with a lot of really good convictions about where this stuff is headed. So there seems to be a need for leadership. People are calling for leadership. People are trying to figure out governance. Now that a lot of people have sold a lot of cryptocurrency, a lot of people have been burned, and a lot of people are really having to think about things. Now the time is settling in to really start building tools. There's so many projects out there now, a lot of really very intelligent people who are now competing with one another, which I think is a big problem, but it's also a big opportunity for others who are willing to actually think beyond what's been done and take advantage of all these open source pieces of tools and start playing around with them. Conceptually, politically, it's been very interesting. You mentioned Vitalik. He's one who said, and I agree, I've been fortunate to be able to explain things to Wall Street in the early days from a theoretical, technological perspective. We're really impressed by organizations around the world and governments in terms of how they've embraced these concepts, how they've understood these concepts. So a lot of the early people also have a lot of arrogance in thinking that they're the ones who know what this means when we put two and two together. So I think it's going to be very interesting, but I do think those communities are now really kind of solidifying, coming together. The companies that are really trying to attack these problems have gotten ahead there with funding. I think there's plenty more room to grow, but I do think it's time to start joining the teams that now exist and really try to figure out how to make peace amongst them.
Thank you. So we heard that the blockchain technology has come a long way, and I know that Enigma project at MIT raised $45 million in their ANG ICO in about 3 days. Now they are investing their money into the next generation of blockchain. As we already know that some of these frameworks, as we were calling the Ethereum debacle, systems become very slow. And of course, you may have also heard about those who are doing mining at their basement, crypto mining. And so there are a lot of heat generated and a lot of energy being sucked into this system, and the energy, their cost of mining is more than what they were getting out of the cryptocurrency. So I think energy definitely is a big change here, because if you want to do some kind of mining, you might as well have a solar panels, which is giving you much lesser, the price for the money, and then you can do the mining using the solar panels or other microgrids. So, and also one of the other issues that Big Grid has been talking a lot about is the resilience. So how do you create resilience in a big power systems, and can we utilize some of these kind of resiliency in the power system? So I know, Alistair, you have been working with some of these energy big grids. So there has been talk about resilience since the last 7 years. So if you can enlighten us in terms of where are we in terms of the resilience, or in terms of the alternative models when the main grid goes down, even let's say Scotland and things like that. What are the alternatives that the energy industry is currently thinking?
So I was actually in New York the Friday before Sandy, which was just less than 6 years ago. I think that's what you're referring to, right? So I was at a conference speaking about climate change and saying, if we don't do something, then New York's going to be underwater. And that Monday it was, so I just have to be careful what I say. But it was a wake-up call because New York went dark, a lot of the Northeast went dark. So that stopped trading on Wall Street, it stopped all the emergency operations. I mean, it was just a difficult time. And they're still recovering in New York. Right? So it was one place that's really taken on the lessons is New York. But the whole of the Northeast has had resiliency programs ever since, funded by the states. So it's taken on different forms and it's still evolving. I would say there's a lot of microgrid programs, demo programs, which are being funded by the states, and they're starting to include some of these, I would say, cleaner technologies like solar storage. If you look at what they did in New York, Con Ed, because of the nature of the grid in Manhattan, they just did a lot of hardening, sort of moving transformers up above the waterline, and then creating redundancy in the network, which is very similar to the way the internet is transmitted, right? So just finding ways to create resilience out of the network and just using traditional methods. I think microgrids is a step above that. There's been a sort of surge of microgrids being planned in the region. I don't know the exact numbers, but as a whole in the nation, 2.75 gigawatts of microgrids were implemented between Q2 2016 and Q4 2017, right? And the industry thinks a lot more of those are going to happen. I reckon it's going to add another 6 gigawatts in the next 18 months. So huge interest in this, but they're mostly talking about the CHP plants that I talked before. So what is that? If you go into the basement of this building, there's probably a power plant, right? It's providing you, it's taking the energy out of the grid, transforming it and making it available in the building, but you also have heat and cooling. An HVAC plant somewhere in the building. Often those are powered by gas. So you've got to think about that as a whole system. And then do you just plan a building, or do you plan a district, like MIT does, or do you plan a whole city? So all that thinking is happening now. A lot of it funded by state government money. Trying to figure out what's the most efficient way and effective way to use money to provide resilience. The other challenge then becomes, well, who do you want to provide resilience for? Do you want to provide it for everyone, or do you want to just protect the most vulnerable people, the most valuable things? So there's a lot of debate going on about who should have that power, that heating, and that shelter made available to them in the event of another big storm. So it's being tackled. It's being looked at in many different ways. Lots of innovation going into it, both in terms of technology and innovation, and business model. And I think blockchain has definitely got a part to play. I think the other thing to think about with the grid is, at the end of the day, it's a very inefficient system. Right? There's a lot of wastage in it. Transmission, you mentioned earlier, that costs 9 cents a kilowatt. And there's a reason for that. You've got cables going miles, they lose power as they transmit it. If you could have a lot more decentralized generation, it'd be much more efficient. And the other thing is, it's not very competitive. Right? You buy your electricity from a utility. Okay, they deregulated it in some states, including here in Massachusetts, so you have competitive alternatives, but it's not really a lot of competition, because it's all coming from the same sources. If you could open up competition with more decentralized generation and have a much more transparent market, which blockchain could expose, then you could have much more competition, and that would really force a lot more efficiency in the system. So, I see a lot of movement, but I see a lot more potential as well.
Great. So there is a movement towards the microgrids and also resiliency in the system. So then question comes is that the control system, are they ready or are they willing to use some of the blockchain framework? Or most often you go and talk to them and they look at you and their eyes are glazed and there's no reaction coming out of them. So coming from inside, do you think the Siemens and the Snyder would eventually take up some of these blockchain kind of technology?
So clearly, there is a lot of interest among these companies in microgrids, like we discussed, and Alistair very nicely explained where we are moving towards. And there is a lot of interest in microgrid. And as soon as we start talking of microgrid, and then, like Nish said, we start talking of sharing the power between one house to the other house, or one industry to the other industry, or between the communities. And once we start talking about this, the first thing then comes is a natural progression to that is a control. We somehow need to be able to have a control system which orchestrates the transfer of power from one place to the other place, and in a reliable and secure fashion. So there is clearly a lot of interest in microgrid among these companies, all these energy companies, which means there is a lot of interest in control systems. But then the question is, where does blockchain play into all of this? And how is blockchain playing into this, ecosystem? So the question, the traditional way of securing things is, you have a server where you do the authentication. It's called sometimes domain controllers. You all must have used some kind of logging into your computers. So where it authenticates who the user is. There is a lot of development in that. But it is, all of this technology is fairly from a centralized point of view. So there is a server, so many of you, if you are from MIT or from one of the big companies, you log into your system, it goes into a central domain controller, and the domain controller says, yep, you are the authenticated user, you have the right password, and you have the right tools to do that. But with microgrids, and with a lot of decentralization happening, be it microgrid, be it IoT, with all of these technologies, the question is, how are we, the whole idea of having a central server and someone owning that server and maintaining that server, it's not going to happen in the future. So somehow we need to have a decentralized way of authenticating, authorizing, and making sure all the transactions are secure. So there are not, when you start thinking of this, one of the first technology that comes into your mind is blockchain. It has been proven in the financial world, where, with bitcoins, we have proved there are a lot of millions of dollars of transaction happening. We have proved that it is secure, it is reliable, immutable, like Nish says it, and there has not been a lot of places where they have been able to hack into the system. Is it hackable? Maybe. Someone clever people will find a way. But it is clearly a technology which is decentralized. There is no central server which is telling you, I authenticate, or a bank telling you there is an authentication mechanism. It is all decentralized on individual basis. So you have a key, and through that key, through this community of blockchain, you are able to make sure that all your transactions are immutable, secure, and reliable. And that is the key. And that is where I think with microgrids and with all these decentralization we are talking about, it is going to come into play, and it is a key technology, key enabler to all of this decentralization.
Yeah, so I think we know that there is a need for a technology like blockchain. So for Chris Tyler, who has been dabbling with some of these older models, I would ask that what are the new frontiers, what you see? Because I've been to many of his salons, and they have a society of explorers, where the idea is to break down the barriers and create a new nation and new economy. So I would ask Chris, what is your vision in terms of the new frontiers, which will connect all of these things? For example, now there are pizza places who are using Bitcoin to sell the pizza. So it has become widely acceptable, as we said, is that it's in fintech, it's in various different domains, it's going into IoTs, it's going everywhere. So everyone and their grandmother is now have blockchain. So now, what are the new frontiers that we should look for? Thank you.
I believe there's a great conversation going on within the blockchain community that I hope will emerge more so soon, but it's what we actually can do with our data and enjoying products that are really truly catered to us. Blockchain, because of its layers of security, enabling marketplace of these validation mechanisms, not only can you create a secure environment, which terrorists may touch it, and some sort of analytical system, which can be a competitive landscape of people who are experimenting with some machine learning on the blockchain. You can really create an ecosystem that enables people to secure a system, but that system has to be fun, it has to be engaging, it has to make our lives better. The conversation that I think is most important from these salons with the blockchain is really us rethinking how we use our tools. It may not be blockchain that solves every piece of those problems. It does seem to be the most enabling tool. So I think we should look for that conversation about personal data, how we own our data. Obviously, this is happening in Facebook, whatnot. I've personally unplugged myself from almost all forms of news for a while, just to really rethink what I need to do every day, to eat and think and read something. And I don't really, do that much. But if I have things to do, and I do now every day with my company, I can get a lot of things done very efficiently if I take a step back and think about things. So I think some of the first applications that'll be very interesting is in groups of people who can coordinate together in groups and use the new functionalities and these tools, the new basic functionalities, to recognize patterns of their behavior versus other people's behaviors. We haven't been able to do that kind of thing with centralized servers and databases. So I think that's going to be really exciting when people actually have some applications running and can experience these things. So start looking for that, because it has to be coming.
Great. So now I want to open it up for all of you. I'm sure we have given you enough food of thought so that you have formulated some questions. So I open it up for any one of you who would like to ask questions to panel. So I would like you to, number one, we have one mic. So I would want you to stand up, introduce yourself, and please a little bit loudly provide your question, and also if you prefer certain panelists, then also name them. Okay? Yeah, go back.
Yes, my name is Doug Mahon. I'm with a consulting firm that consults with nonprofits in the developing world. And I focus on three primary areas: asset transfer, identity, and land title. So I want to be able to advertise that energy is going to be a significant improvement in the developing world where we're dealing with power outages for hours on end. And I realize it's a big deal here in the global north, but what are your thoughts on the global south? What can I bring to my clients that will improve their idea of blockchain in energy in the developing world to maintain a consistent grid, maintain a consistent property or energy?
Alistair, you want to take first?
So yeah, I've been pretty negative on like the pace of change here in the northern world, if you like, developed world. I think it's, I'm hearing stories about how fast things are changing in the microgrid side of the developing world. And so I think people are leapfrogging technology and using solar storage rapidly to great. And nanogrids, as Nish said. So, do I see blockchain playing a role in that? Yes, if it can be proved out and validated, yeah, I think it can really help with that level of transaction and providing a secure sort of micro transaction capability. But I don't have any real evidence of that myself or experience of that. It's just what I feel. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
Is there a time frame, general?
I can't give you that right after what I'm seeing. But I think, just go back to what I'm seeing with some of the companies here experimenting in it, they're not moving too fast. I mean, as well as peer-to-peer transactions, I do see some of the bigger companies looking at it to reduce both the cost and the time frame of transactions. So the more comfortable they get with that, prove it out in different environments, internally as well as externally, I think it'll pick up. And as Chris said, we've seen this take off in the finance sector. It is being legitimized, it is being regulated, that's translated in sort of places. But yeah, when you've got a less regulated environment like in the south, then I think it can go really fast. Maybe you have anything to add to that?
So, if you look at in India, there's a huge, very big initiative on solar. And in fact, there is a lot of commitment from the top, from the Prime Minister of India. And they are developing a lot of these utility scale power plants. So eventually all of that right now goes to the government channels. And that goes into what they call power purchase agreements. So I think that's where the blockchain is going to play a big role. And I know that Middle East as well as in Southeast Asia, they are looking into these technologies quite carefully. So if you, so I think those areas are really coming up. And I would think that it will be sooner rather than the later, where these kind of decentralization happens. So I would give it back to Alistair. And also I think in Middle East you guys have done a lot of work, Amitesh, so you may want to talk about.
Yeah, it's just some examples I did forget. So Power Ledger is another company that's well known in this area, and we have our local partner here, Franklin, who's marketers. But Power Ledger is doing things in Australia, not exactly undeveloped, but they are rolling out sort of big pilot of this technology, which is working and doing transactions and saving money for lots of people. So they've also got relationships in a bunch of other countries in Asia. Again, mostly developed countries, right, Frank? Bangkok, yeah. So Thailand, Korea, Japan. But it's happening faster in other places where there's less regulation.
So again, I come from the controls world, so I can talk to you about the controls. Like I briefly mentioned, in Middle East, one of the top and one of the biggest concern they have is security. And most of the energy companies, and here I'm not talking just the power, but oil and gas, and other energy companies that is in Middle East, one of the key concerns right now is with security and how to secure their installments, how to secure their power plants or oil and gas plants. And all of this is playing, and currently, like I said, there is a very centralized way of managing this. But as these companies are getting more decentralized and the technology is improving, there is more and more move towards moving to blockchain. have they actually adopted it? It is a new technology, and it did get a little bit notoriety because of Bitcoin. But it worked both ways. It also got the attention of people like us, saying, what is this? We got curious first. And then we started exploring, oh, there is, forget about how it is used in the financial world. Let's start thinking how you can use in a more distributed world. So it is taking off in that sense.
You had a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's that's for you. Yeah, sorry. I'm Corey. My question is sort of on the economic sphere as an attack surface for microgrids. And I'm curious about kind of two scenarios. If you're trying to deny service of power to a specific target, I'm wondering how an attacker might use the rules of the marketplace to prevent power from going to a building or facility or whatever. And the other is, I'm curious what kind of economic brownouts, so to say, that could be developed against in the marketplace side of things.
So let me understand your question. So are you looking only from the financial side? You are looking from the technical side. I think your first question is more on the technical side. So let me take your first question. So what's happening is currently with the decentralization, it's very easy for me or for anyone. I don't know if you have used any of the technologies like Wireshark, trying to pull what is going on in the network, right? Think about, if you have used that technology, I guess you have.
I've seen it.
Okay, you have seen. So think about what's going on in your wire, right? You will have a lot of such devices out there. Once microgrid and these become a reality, and things get more decentralized, there is going to be a lot of either wireless communication happening or a wired communication happening between all these, like I said, 8 billion plus devices. And that I'm talking per year, right? 8 billion devices per year. Multiply it over multiple years and across the globe, and you just can imagine how big that is. So all these transactions have to happen in a secure fashion. How difficult it is for me or someone like you to write a small program which embeds a worm or virus in any of these single devices that I can transmit all across the globe if these things, all these devices get connected. And they will be connected because the time we talk IoT, there is internet. And when there is internet, everything in the world is connected at that point, right? Every device in the world will be connected to one. How are you going to secure that? So it's very easy to hack into one single device, or I can generate a device of my own, which is a worm on the net, right? And that is communicating to all these other devices, and it's infecting all these devices. So there has to be some kind of a decentralized ledger-like fashion which is trusted by the community. And that is where blockchain comes in. It is the community trusts it, and not only trusts it, but even secures it, right? So that is where I think there is a big, did I answer your question? That's where I see that blockchain is going to help secure all these different devices.
Back into it after.
So,
Sure.
you had a question?
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Luke. Consulting with a couple tech companies, but bear with me, my question is kind of thought through as I go. So, unless we figure out how to wirelessly transfer energy, we need an infrastructure. Which I don't think, I'm sure there are people working on it, but with the blockchain analogy applied to the microgrid economy, you have each node connected by many more wires than you normally would. And that implies with the analogy that there has to be way more of a wired infrastructure with our current system. What pragmatic solutions do the three of you see to that in the future? Besides using the wires that currently are in place in the grid charger.
So I'll go straight to the wireless one. So wireless technology is being developed for EV charging, and it's out there. It's been used and adopted by the auto. So, but I don't think that's very relevant. But there is wireless electricity taking place. As far as the infrastructure we need, you're right, we need to have wireless connectivity. But I think Nish made a point earlier that we're not trying to build a whole new grid to connect everyone, we're trying to leverage the grid we have. Because I think one of the things we haven't talked about much tonight is there is a value back to the grid of all of this. I think you mentioned it on one slide. So we want to leverage the wires that exist already. And then if the grid, so one thing about the grid is it needs power at different places at different times, depending on the peak load at that time, right? So if you have extra assets in one place that are connected by this blockchain transaction mechanism, you can make that excess power flow back to the place where it's needed. So I think we're talking about adding new infrastructure to one place. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So I guess the model would be that the grid that owns the infrastructure that's currently in place charges some type of surcharge for power going from one place to another through it.
Yeah. So right now that's a transmission charge, right? You pay for that. But imagine it's not the full transmission, but it's a short transmission.
Yeah.
I think there's new business models which need to emerge to take account of the data that's available, and new prices will turn out from that.
Let me also invite Frank Duran, who is the power grid here, and to give your, and you're an IoT expert as well. So you might want to add something.
So to answer part of your question, I guess, is what we're saying is it's one-way transportation right now, right? The energy comes from way over here, it goes way over here. What we're all talking about, especially us in the community here, is, hey, why don't we keep it here, right? So Biogen has extra energy on their solar panels during the day. Hey, why can't they send the power here where we work? So the idea is that it transports more locally, but it's two-way transportation is what we're saying. So use the wires and the poles more efficiently. So that answers part of the question. I think what we're also talking about is, the rural part. I think all of us, to Chris's point, in the community, are doing a lot. You probably don't see it, but almost all of us are involved in blockchain in one sense or another. A part of Puerto Rico, I know, but most of us are down there or doing something with it. We have 5 projects in rural India, Malaysia, Bangkok, where there's no power. We're actually going to go up and, in an ecosystem, I think that's important, build those microgrids. And so we're going to help not only with peer-to-peer, but we're also looking at anomalies, flow of energy, the work with a lot of us are also, working with low-income housing. So part of it is how do we take energy from one place and support the local economy, but also support low-income housing. So when you look at similar projects, it's really the way most of us are looking at it's community, keep it local, and those are the things that we're trying to do. How do you make the payments go back? We have to work with utilities, so we're trying to say, hey, utility, yes, we're here, we're not trying to displace you. Some people are talking about that. We're saying, hey, we'll pay you for those, pipes and wires, but hey, don't charge me. 9 cents when I have net metering, and I those grids that you see on Route 2 and the Mass Pike and driven. So every day those go out one time a day at 9 cents a kilowatt hour. We ship it back to the grid. Guess what? At 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, when we're all home doing dishes, washing, eating, all that, they sell it back to us for 21 cents. Like, wait a minute, how does that make sense? So hey, is there a way instead? Let me sell it back for 15 cents and split the difference. Or maybe we give 2 cents to a local income or a college or whatever else it is. So it's really, I think we all are trying to look at it from an economy, is what I would say. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you very much. So we have time for one question. Go ahead.
So sort of what you were talking about, we were also learning about that's to the first question asker.
Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Shanti, and I work building with microgrids or off-grid energy, but not in cities. So I'm wondering if there's any application in the context that you were describing where you might be building a standalone grid that might not talk to a more complex grid. Is there a role for blockchain?
Yeah, it's islanding. Yeah, and that's what we're doing. So
but not islanding from a larger grid.
No.
Islanding
It's islanding the community. So we're setting up the community to be a resilient community in rural Bangladesh.
What is blockchain doing?
So between that, there's a small hospital, a small school, housing, and something else. They're going to transmit the energy throughout the buildings. And so part of it is a fractionally owned some of it, so all of them actually own part of it, so we use the contract to say, you can only put in $1,000. Chris can put in $200, Nish can put in $2. Everybody's going to get a piece. Everybody's going to get a piece of that, but also anytime something goes on, they're going to migrate. If there's a problem, say there's flooding in one area, you can send that energy to the school and have the school still be powered and have it as an emergency center, or have an emergency services to have police and fire or whatever's in those local grids manage it. So it's going to be self-contained in a sense that they can manage among their own community. Eventually, they want to connect to the grid, but it's off the grid in some cases. In 2 out of 4 that we're working on.
But Frank, my understanding is that blockchain will do 2 things. One is it'll record the transactions,
Yeah.
but it'll also have a smart contract there in the first place to say,
Right.
if this happens, do that.
Great point. Yeah, it's if then. I mean, blockchain really for us is if then. If you want to sell to me, I will sell to you. If I have an agreement with you and checks the agreement, make sure it's true, then we can do business. So think of blockchain as rules or if-then statements, and that's kind of Al's great point.
So we are coming to the end of the time now because we have to clear out this place by 8 o'clock. So what I would want is the panelists to give their parting shots, 60 seconds or 2 minutes, and then I'll do a quick conclusion and then we will end.
Yeah, I'll try to respond to everyone who spoke there because they have a thought here. So to your point, the blockchain architecture, thinking about blockchain and how this affects grid architecture, you're able to set up these microgrid infrastructures where you're accounting for who's a part of the community, who's on the network, who's agreed upon, whatever the consensus mechanism is. That group of people, whoever's governing that or laying down the code for it, can actually assess the value of existing infrastructure. So, we get to look at physics and say, okay, well, Jonathan Lee, what can we send down in terms of communication, down these electrical lines? What can we do with existing infrastructure? Blockchain is a software layer, it's an infrastructure software layer that's very secure. So just like a virus, with sort of people agreeing upon something, you can send something through that creates incentive around the existing infrastructure. Now, it does seem we need new infrastructure to do that. So you can think of mesh networking tools or very advanced new kinds of internet infrastructure that's going to go out into space and create economics in space. If you really think next level, it's going to be layers such as that still incorporate the ecosystem around it that's existing infrastructure. Now, if there's a existing grid infrastructure where there's an oscillation across the grid and it's going to knock out a power plant, blockchain can be this controlling layer that knocks out the communication with that piece to save the grid. So we already have so much technology and support there. The guy who's walking out at this point, there's a lot to be rethought when it comes to NGOs and what we do in developing countries and what we convince ourselves of in terms of helping. You can go there with a crew of people helping with Habitat Humanity for a week. You help out with an economy that you lead, and that creates a vortex. And typically, you should watch the documentary Poverty Week. My fiance loves this. And basically, it makes you really rethink how we help these ecosystems. So now we have ways to connect, like we can peer-to-peer on the internet, with people elsewhere, securitizing those assets. And you have a microgrid or a bunch of solar panels, in another community. The investors can be in the U.S. So the identification of these communities, the recognition of existing communities, and supporting where their strengths are, as opposed to creating weaknesses by going in there and trying to do something that's only temporary, is where that focus needs to be.
So, in this storm, I lost power for 3 days. And I have a 6-month-old. I was very tensed. So I was thinking, if at all, and then I went to the stores, there were no generators, there was no heaters, all the stores had ran all of those. At that point I was thinking, just if Nish's technology was already there in my community, I wouldn't have had to go through that field. So I clearly see, and that is where a lot of energy companies clearly see a benefit of microgrid. So microgrid is going to be there, I believe, and I'm very excited about that. With the advancement of technology in the last 15 years, with cloud-based computing, Internet of Things, and many other improvements in the technology, I believe it's going to be an enabler, and IoT and controls is going to become more and more part of the life. And the backbone has to be secure and reliable. So that's where I think blockchain is going to be playing a very big role because you need it secure and decentralized and reliable. So I think with everything powered up here, it has a microgrid, it has blockchain in there, and it has a lot of components of control systems and IoT. So I'm really excited about this technology.
So I've got two thoughts. One is, I wouldn't be here unless it was for Chris Taylor and his knowledge of blockchain. So 3 years ago, we were serving on a committee in the Enterprise Forum, and he said, why don't we do an event all about energy and blockchain? We were going, what's that blockchain? Who's ever going to want that? And we found, gradually we found 2 companies that were doing energy and blockchain, right, 2 years ago. There's 122 now. So, you know, it's not just Nish and Frank and others who are doing this, but people are realizing there's huge potential here. And I think it does get into some of these things we're talking about this network. Imagine the network effect is the more nodes in a network that are connected, the more value there is in the network. Right now, the electrical grid works one way, right? The utility is connected to all of you. Maybe it has 1 million customers, but there's only 1 million connections. You can connect the 999,999 to each other as well. Think of the power of that network effect. That's what I think blockchain is going to come rapidly. So the more companies we have to figure this out and get it working, do the demos, prove it out, get people to trust it, but because it's really going to open up a huge value. So, thank you, Chris.
So we are coming to the end of the time. Again, I would encourage you to go to our website, download our white paper. We are trying to bring this revolution to all of you. I want to thank my panelists. Big applause for Alistair Pim. And I want to thank the Power of team who really worked very hard, and also the team of WeWork who provided us this place. And I would want you to stay tuned with us. We are going to do several of these kinds of events in coming months. So we want you to come back and we'll discuss even in more detail what this new energy blockchain technology can do for us. Thank you very much. Good night and good back.